All right, welcome back. Lone Star Karate, Sean McNair. We're here to talk about firearms and how they relate to self-defense. Let me start with saying I'm not a gun guy. I did grow up with guns in the house. My dad was an avid hunter, and we would hunt with family. But I'm not a gun guy. I'm a martial artist. I've been doing martial arts since I was 8 years old. So growing up in the martial arts in the early 90s, we did a lot of self-defense against weapons, specifically the gun and the knife. And we trained a lot of gun, and we even trained with ammunition rounds. We were very good at defending against a firearm. But the one caveat to that was we were at arm's reach. We could always reach the firearm. So about 15 years ago, I kind of came to some epiphany, if you will, doing gun self-defense and teaching it to students. And I realized that if I were outside of that arm's reach, none of my skills were capable of defending against that firearm. You know, the only option is to run. That's the only option. And unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of having only one option. I want multiple options because running may not be the correct option. And so I realized that at some point outside of arm's reach, you need another option. And firearms can fit that bill. And so if you know me at all, you realize that I'm the type of person that jumps in, both feet in when I get excited about something. And so I really jumped into the firearms world when it came to self-defense. And so bought a Glock. I trained with it all the time. I put, tens of thousands of rounds through my Glock. I went to various seminars throughout the country, learning how to defend myself with a firearm. And it was eye-opening. It was wonderful. I had a great time doing it. Went to various shoot houses. Live round shoot houses are no joke. Pretty darn dangerous and scary, but taught me a lot of valuable information when it comes to how firearms can be part of your self-defense world. Now, one of the biggest things that I learned when I was in these classes, and I took these classes for years and still honestly train with firearms as an offensive tool, but the biggest takeaway I had was that the majority of people in these classes were gun guys or gals. They were gun people. They came to self-defense with the mindset of using a firearm. And the reason why I feel like I can speak to this is because very few people come to that, to the gun world from a martial arts background, from an unarmed perspective. And so I feel that I can speak to this and give you some clarity in understanding firearms in a self-defense concept. Understand that the perspective that I had was coming to a self-defense situation without any tools was something that I had always thought about. I never used a tool in self-defense except for myself. And now having a firearm, and others would come to these classes and their sole focus was to use that firearm as their self-defense tool. And so you got to think about that cognitive bias, if all you have is a hammer, well, everything looks like a nail. And so I had a lot of issues with thinking that a firearm is the only answer. And so it got me thinking. Understanding cognitive bias is important, and understanding your perspective, your paradigm is an important thing, in life, but specifically here in self-defense. So if my tool is a firearm and I treat everything, every problem with the idea that a firearm, I have to think about how to use that firearm, that can be very detrimental. But the other side as well, not using a firearm and not having that tool at my disposal was an issue that I had early on in my training. Now, when you're watching this video, you may think, well, yeah, Sean doesn't know what he's talking about, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. I don't have a problem because I'm not gonna be in that situation with you. And so you don't have to listen to me. You're the one that has to deal with that situation. So I'm only worried about me. But I hope with my background and my understanding of this, I'm giving you a couple of questions. I'm not gonna give you answers, I'm gonna give you questions. You go find those answers. And if a gun is part of your answer, then so be it. If it's your only answer, well, so be that too. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just trying to give you some clarification. Now, getting down to the nitty-gritty with defending against a firearm, really we need to talk about ranges, okay? And the ranges that we need to discuss is if you're within arm's reach of the person, not arm's reach, but actually in physical contact, right? You're touching the person, they're grabbing you, you grabbing them. That's one range, right? And that could be standing, sitting in a crowded place, in an open place, laying on the ground, fighting off the ground, whatever. But understand that's one range. And then understand that the next range would be within arm's reach. So you're able to grab, but you're not actually in physical contact yet, but you're close enough to grab, they're close enough to grab you. And that's another range. And understand we're specifically talking about firearms. If they have a firearm, you have a firearm, we're talking about that small area. The third range is outside of arm's reach, up to about, I would say about 10 feet, 12 feet. And then the last range is up to, well, the famous 21-foot rule, right? And so about 10 to 12 feet, 9 feet to 21 feet is the last range. And so there's those four ranges. Again, they're just, I made them up. Everybody has their own thought process on ranges and whatnot. But if you think about those four ranges, the first two ranges, you need hand-to-hand combatives. You need the ability to fight with your hands. You need to go hands-on. And a firearm may be useful in those situations, but if you don't have some sort of training, resistance training in hand-to-hand combatives, that firearm is just going to get taken away from you and used against you. The second two ranges, your hand-to-hand combatives aren't going to help you in those situations. And a firearm can be very, very useful if you know how to use it. So understanding those four ranges is important, okay? And so I can hear you now. There's going to be gun guys out there going, well, I'll never get close enough. I'll never let them get close enough to put their hands on me within arm's reach of my firearm. That's not, it's not a possibility. Well, you're wrong. It's just as simple as that. Go check out videos, go do some research, and stop living in your little bubble about how the gun guys handle self-defense situations. And that's why this is such an emotional topic, because the gun guys don't want to train in hand-to-hand combatives because it's hard. It's not easy. Resistance training with hands-on it's gonna take a lot of work. It's gonna suck. Your conditioning is gonna show. If you don't have any, you're gonna get winded within the first couple of seconds, and you're gonna wanna quit. But if self-defense is your goal, then you need to put hand-to-hand combatives of some aspect, but it needs to be resistance. It doesn't need to be just, well, I would do this or I would do that. You need to actually go hands-on, touch gloves, and it's in any resistance martial art. You could do wrestling, boxing, BJJ, karate, Hapkido, but it needs to be resistance. Now, some of those martial arts or instructors do not train with resistance. So you need to make sure the resistance aspect is in that program that you're training. Now, after I've offended the gun guys, let me move on to the martial artist and offend them. Many martial artists talk about being self-defense experts. They're not. They're martial arts experts. And most of them have never actually put themselves in a position to train in self-defense. They live in their little martial arts bubble, whatever martial art they do, because all martial arts have certain things that they do well, and that's fine. That's great. Keep training that. I think it's important. But if you teach self-defense and you say you teach self-defense, you need to understand that, or you train self-defense, you need to understand that to have a complete understanding of self-defense, firearms probably will be part of that, okay? And I'm not saying you have to enjoy firearms. This is not a political discussion, but firearms are part of the world. And if you're not training in firearms, if you don't understand how to use a firearm, then you can't defend against a firearm. You don't know how they work. You don't know anything about them. You don't understand what grabbing a firearm is going to do. How's it going to, what's your grab going to do to that firearm? Is it gonna, render it inoperable? Or is it gonna be able to shoot? Are they gonna, what happens then? Okay, so if you train from in a martial art that says that they do gun disarms and the guy is not capable of using a firearm and hasn't been to a range, well, that's a problem. And so as a martial artist, you need to understand the context of what a firearm brings to it. And so both sides need to understand that living in their little small bubble is not the complete picture of what self-defense is. And you need both. You need to understand both. Now, if you've kept through this video and you've listened to what I'm saying and you actually appreciate it and you want to see some more, I have other videos discussing how to defend against a weapon, a gun specifically, from a martial arts combative perspective, right? Hands-on. I also have videos on how to use your offensive firearm in that context, okay? And so please check out those videos. And if you did like this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It definitely helps. And please put in the comments what you think. If you like this, if you think I'm full of crap, whatever, I'd appreciate the comments. Thanks.